What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Parrot Press. Today's video is all about attacking stacks. We're looking at the summer again. We're looking at the MLS, and I'm going to give you 7 attacking stacks that I think are going to perform really well this summer. First club we're going to be talking about is Columbus Crew, and the two players that we're going to be talking about is Lucas Zelarayan, who is an absolute animal on this game, but pairing him with Chucho Hernandez. And I'm definitely going to butcher some of these names along the way, guys. Apologize in advance. So jumping back to Lucas, he's been at the Columbus Crew for quite a while. He takes all of their set pieces. He is an absolute animal from an AA point of view, from a decisive point of view when it comes to Sorare. And as you can see here, even if I went to all, you can see how many dark green scores this guy has. He's capable of 100. He's capable of scoring, assisting, dominating in the middle of the park, on the left of the park, whatever it is. This guy is really up there in terms of all stats. If you're familiar with people like Carlos Hill and how many people bang on about him, I would say Zelarayan is right up there with Hill, just a little bit underneath him. And this season he's started really well as well. I wouldn't be scared of, let me just go to 3 months, this DMP here. It was just being rested and rotated. He only played 45 minutes, which was actually last night, and still come up with the goal. Subbed off at halftime, which was already planned as well. So moving forward, if this guy's fit, he plays. And similarly with Hernandez as well. Now, Hernandez come over from Europe, and since playing there, and let me filter this by Columbus Crew, which I'm doing there, and since going there, he has performed really well as well. Again, this is another striker. If we look here, 12 AA, 20 AA. He's capable of AA as well as assisting and scoring. He had an injury at the beginning of this year, but if we just take a look at how effective this guy is when he plays, a goal, assist, an assist, a couple of goals, a goal, he's always in amongst it. And to have Zelarayan feeding him through, I probably would say that this is the best attacking stack for me anyway, coming into the summer period. Now, I do own Zelarayan. I know that, so I'm not trying to pump him up in price. He's going nowhere in my gallery whatsoever. No chance that I sell this guy unless somebody offers, a cheeky little 2 ETH. But that's not going to happen. And then, yeah, they are just a dream pair. Moving on to the next club we're going to talk about is Cincinnati. And there used to be a kind of trio of players here that you could sort of mix and match, and maybe even bring in Barrial over here into that equation as well, or into that conversation. But the two players that I've picked here are Lucho Acosta, who's a midfielder, again takes all of their set pieces. We take a look at his scores, quite consistent for a midfielder. Again, stacks up with some of the AA, but he's always in amongst feeding those balls through. Similarly to Zelarayan, they kind of go through Acosta. He's a small guy, he's nimble, he's really good with his feet, wins some penalties, and it takes the penalties, he takes their corners. He's just a really key player for them. And when he isn't playing, Cincinnati really miss him. He's been at Cincinnati for a couple of seasons, I think it is. He's a bit of a journeyman. As you can see there, he's played for a good few teams, but look at how consistent he is. Now, I would say that although he does get some AA, which we can see here, the 16, the 15, the 20, he is a little bit more decisive, heavy, or dependent, should I say. But saying all of that, he's a really good player. And I would pair him with, so you used to have a choice of 2 here with Vazquez, the guy that we're going to be talking about, and Brenner as well. Now, Brenner actually transfers to Europe, so he's kind of being phased out of the squad at the moment. But Brandon Vazquez is a goal machine. And again, he falls into that category where it's really decisive heavy, really decisive dependent, because his AA is not fantastic for a forward. If you're looking for forwards with AA, go and take a look at Louis Arejo or somebody like Johnny Russell, which we'll talk about later on. But yeah, if you're looking for pure kind of decisives, now, again, if you look at these last, 10 games or so, there's only 4 decisives in there. But if we take a look at last year and I scroll down a little bit, you can see how many goals that he does actually score. He scored last night, and I think, did Lucho score or get an assist? Oh, he did score. He scored last night as well. So both of them are coming with decisives in the same game. And what we're looking for here is a midfielder and a forward, one that assists the other, one that's regularly in amongst it, so that you can really focus on a team And if they've got a strong matchup, they're more likely, so to speak, getting a decisive. But I do like Brandon Vazquez. He is young. He did just sign a new contract as well, so I think that you're safe for a few years for him. And it looks like they've got a good running coming up as well, with Colorado, Chicago in there, the Whitecaps. Even though that those games are away, or some of them are away, I do really like Cincinnati. They're one of the strongest teams this season. Now, the next team we're going to be talking about is LAFC, the best team in the MLS. They won the MLS Cup last year, and we're going to be talking about 2 forwards in this case. Now, there are some midfielders that you might want to look at to put him in there, and probably they are the 3 that I would maybe suggest. However, I think a better stack would be Carlos Vela. Needs no introduction, MLS legend now, LAFC legend now, obviously started his career, or people might be familiar with him when he was at Arsenal, but this guy stacks up the AA. This is what I was talking about with Vazquez, where he doesn't really have much AA. Vela definitely does. A 9, a 10, a 15, 14, etc. A 23 there coming on as sub, but he's really capable of decisives as well, obviously, and that's what we're looking for in all of these players, that are decisive, capable. And last night he didn't have a great game actually, which was quite surprising. But overall, it's just a solid player. In the last year, 12 goals, 16 assists. He's in amongst it with LAFC. I suppose the only thing that you got to take into consideration is that his contract does expire at the end of this season, and he is 34. Whether LAFC put another year on or something like that, I would expect them to, because he is a really good player and he still looks pretty sharp when he plays. But yeah, that's just something to be aware of. Now, the guy that we're putting him with is Dennis Buanga. Now, Buanga is the best forward in the MLS period at the moment, because he's just an absolute goal scoring machine. Look at his last 6 games there, and even just take out this one, he's a really, really good player. Come over from the French league, I think it was, yeah. And he done all right out there as well. Even if I switched to all there, he done okay in this spell here especially. And then come over to the MLS and just hit the ground running pretty much. And he's been really, really strong this season. Most likely going to get the top goal scorer. Most likely going to get MVP. Yeah, there's not much more to say about him. He's 28 years of age. He's got a longish contract. But those 2 together would be a pretty good stack. The next club we're going to be talking about is Real Salt Lake. Now, I'm not a massive fan of this club, but I think that these 2 have great potential to hit really, really high scores in the same week if Real Salt Lake perform well. And the first one we're going to be talking about is Pablo Ruiz. Now, he's not had an amazing start to the season. I mean, he was subbed last night because of the rotation, because we had that midweek game week for the MLS. And since then, I mean, he had a red card there, which weren't ideal. He gave away a penalty. He scored an own goal, or made a mistake, something like that. Yeah, it's not been an amazing start for him, but he's really capable when he gets a goal, and he doesn't make a mistake or get sent off, to do very well. I mean, that is just a clear highlight here. What I'm highlighting is he scored, even though he's got the yellow card and stuff, but he's racked up the AA and he's got a 91. And going back, the best start of last year, let me stop flying around here, but at the start of last year, he was one of the best midfielders to have around this period. He was going for a lot of money. Being a young guy, you probably have to pay a little bit of a premium, but again, that runs out in a couple of months' time, but maybe some people are going to pick them up now that Europe's kind of coming to a close. But he's capable. He's just really capable of AA. He takes us some of their set pieces as well, along with the forward that I'm going to pair him with. It's not my favourite pairing. It's not my favourite stack, but I do think on the given game week, the right game week, they are capable of spiking quite high. And the other guy, I've actually picked this guy up recently, is Savarino. Now, he does have some midfielder and forward cards. Definitely get the forward card if you're thinking about doing it. But he is a forward that fits into the category of getting decent AA. Now, he hasn't scored in the last 4, but he's had decent AA there, making sure that he doesn't kill a lineup. Now, 16 and 18 and 11. But if we go back a little bit further, he's got a 41 AA. As a forward, this is, make sure that I've got the right setting, yeah. As a forward, he's getting a 41 AA. As I said, take some of the set pieces. You've got no worries about him transferring unless obviously somebody comes in with mad money, but he actually left Real Salt Lake, went somewhere and then come back to Real Salt Lake. You can see his contract there expires in 2025. But I really like this guy. If you're looking for somebody who gets the AA, takes their set pieces, he's always pretty much playing their key man. He's at a good age. And as I said, he's capable of AA and decisives. Moving on to Sporting Kansas City. And quite similarly to those guys that I was just talking about in Real Salt Lake, I think that Tommy and the other guy is Johnny Russell are similar to this. They're both capable of AAs. They're both capable of decisives. I know I keep repeating myself, and that's kind of what this video is about, right? Making sure that they are capable of performing and delivering what we need to. But it's obviously important. It's very, very important. And Johnny Russell, he's just getting some of his form back. Now, a couple of years ago, if I show you all here, make sure it's just Sporting, you can see here that he was probably one of the best cards to have in the game as a forward. Now, I wasn't playing around that time, but he had an off-season last year. Well, the whole club had an off-season last year, but it seems like they're just starting to find their mojo a bit more since this 2-1 win against Seattle away from home as well. They come back with a 3-0 win against Minnesota. And then last night as well, they held their own and they went toe-to-toe for the MLS best, or the best MLS team. And he popped up with a goal with a decent little bit of AA on top of that as well. And yes, he is getting a bit older, but he's still such a key person for them. I think he's their captain, takes half of their corners. I don't know if he takes penalties, but he's always in amongst it. I really like Johnny Russell. And then to pair him with Eric Tommy as well. Now, I've mentioned this in another video that I've done around the 23 players for summer 23 that I think are bargains. And I still think that Tommy is a bargain despite a bit of a bad performance last night. When he come to the league from Stuttgart, he started tearing it up with these scores here and then the 85s. And I think he was taking over even more set pieces because Johnny Russell was out at the tail end of last season. But again, he's another guy who's capable of dominating the middle of the park. And when you watch him play, he's kind of a big frame and he just gets in amongst it. He looks like a really, really solid player. But at the moment, he hasn't got it going this year. If Sporting Kansas City can start, picking up this form or continuing this form from the last 3 games and the way that they are playing, I expect those guys in a few games this season certainly to be delivering kind of that 80 plus, both of them assisting each other and being a real force in that Sporting KC midfield and on the right hand side there for Johnny Russell as well. So I do like this stack. I do own Johnny Russell as well because I like owning forwards that have decent AA, and Tommy is definitely on my watch list as well. Moving on to Atlanta United. Now, there are a few players here that you can actually kind of chop and change because there's some decent midfielders, there's some decent forwards. However, I think that the stack to probably go for is Thiago Almeida. Now, look at his price. It's obviously quite a bit of money. That's because he's under 23 and he's just an absolute animal. He coming off another goal last season, which was an amazing free kick as well. Go and watch the highlight on that. But a guy who is capable of, again, of both the AA and decisive. He's not just decisive heavy, which is always good, but just an outstanding player. Now, the thing that you've got to take into consideration here is that I don't see him being in the MLS for too much longer. He could see out this season and maybe go somewhere next season, but he could also be a summer transfer. The way that he's playing, and obviously he went to Argentina, went to the World Cup, should I say, with Argentina as well. Won the World Cup, had a few cameos there, but he's a really, really talented player. Far too good for the MLS, in my opinion. But yeah, one of the best midfielders you can get. And then a new forward to the MLS. I'm just going to call him Gigi because I'm not trying to pronounce that. But he come off the bench last night, scored a really, really classy goal, showed his technical capabilities. He come from Celtic. He's a starter for Greece as well. This guy has no AA. You can see his games for Atlanta here. Just maybe one game he scored 9. Oh, and they're coming off the bench there as well. Other than that, he's pure, goals. That's what you're looking for, goal machine. But when you've got the likes of, just jumping back to Atlanta here, Almeida just dominating people and feeding through his ball to him. But then you've also got Brooks Lennon on the right, who's got an outstanding delivery, I own his super rare, so I am going to talk him up. But an outstanding delivery, which he assisted GG last night as well. But then you have got Luis Horejo in there as well. Now, he might be another choice to stack with Almeida, but I sold him recently just because he was getting on my nerves with these scores. He is another forward who's really, really capable of that AA side. It's not just goal dependent, but if you're looking for somebody who's probably a bit more consistent, I would say GG, just for the fact of he seems to just want to dominate this league and scores almost every time that he plays. But just be careful on Almeida, because as I said, he might be leaving sooner rather than later. And moving on to the last thing we're going to talk about today's San Jose Earthquakes. Only two players to talk about in my opinion here. The midfielder being Espinoza, an absolute legend for them. You can see here that he's had what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So out of the last 7 games, he's had 6 decisives, and a couple of them, like, he scored a brace as well. You can tell that, you know, he's a key influence for that team. They try and go through him as much as they possibly can. Not an amazing AA player. He is capable of it. You can see there the 36. So it's always nice to know that sometimes he's going to pop up with that. But he takes all of their corners, penalties, free kicks. He's always in amongst it. And if he's fit, he plays. And then I would pair him with Big Jeremy here. Now, we look at him. He falls into that, again, that category of not amazing AA. It's okay. But he does score a bit, and when he's got Espinoza around him, then those two kind of complement each other, and they often assist each other and look to play with each other as often as they possibly can. So yeah, as a last stack, I would say Jeremy and I'm not going to pronounce his surname, that's why I'm calling him Jeremy, and Christian Espinoza as well for San Jose. I think there's a really solid stack, but maybe a little bit cheaper than the other guys that I've mentioned. So there you go, guys. They are the 7 attacking stacks that I'd recommend if you're looking to pick some MLS players up this summer. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see some more, hit that subscribe button. And as always, I'll see you in the future.